Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is our Investor Insights. I'm Bonnie Hopper. I write the weekly Startup One Step newsletter where we always post these, and my little editorial too. Very opinionated when it comes to this industry, but I've been in the industry a long time, and I am also super connected. And I work with founders on their pitch decks and talking points and make introductions to partners or investors where and when appropriate. I want to thank Joseph Katz for hosting us. Joseph, tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Tracy. Excited to be here today. I'm a startup marketing guy. I've worked for 8 different startups over time. 1 successful exit, 2 still ongoing, 1 turned into a unicorn. So I've seen some good. And then if you do the math, I've seen some bad. So I've seen a little bit of it all and try to help companies now put the strategic marketing plans in place to go to market and grow. So happy to chat with anyone offline. I'll put my information in the chat. Suggest you all do the same, and excited for today's conversation.
And this week's guest is Tracy Chadwell, who we haven't hosted here in a long time. And when we did, it was still in person. Now we do it online. So Tracy, do you want to meet the people in the room, or do you want to tell us a little bit about us, about yourself and the fund? And
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, Bonnie, thank you so much for having me today. It's been way too long.
Way too long.
You know, I can validate everything that Bonnie said about herself because I've known her for ages. I was just looking, I can't believe you've been doing this for 15 years, which is amazing. I mean, I knew you back at Alley Watch, so it's been a long time, and you've been a good friend for a while. So I'm really happy to be here. And yes, I would love to start out by meeting everybody that's in the room right now, and then happy to give a few minutes on myself and what we're doing at 1843, and then love to take some questions. So,
oh, Heidi, you were introducing yourself, so make it brief and start over because go.
Well, you guys heard my spiel. I am off camera. Just came out of the shower from being in the gym. I like to introduce myself by saying I've been to prison. Not as an inmate, but as a visitor. I was president of the broadcast division of Martha Stewart's company. When she went to the big house, I smuggled in kumquats and eye wetting solution at her request, but that's a story for another day. I've been in the entertainment business. I ran a bunch of cable television channels, internationally as well. I moved over on the healthcare media side and the business side of healthcare. I'm a venture partner in a fund. I'm an LP and a couple others. I have an angel syndicate, and I'm happy to meet everybody today and look forward to learning about you all as well as Tracy's fund.
And everybody, like I said, feel free to put your contact information in the chat. Joanne.
Hi, everyone. I'm not on mute. Hi, it's nice to see you, Tracy. It's nice to see you again. We met last year at the Century Summit. We had dinner together at that event, and I saw this opportunity, and there was a wait list, and I got off the wait list, and I was very happy about that. So thank you. So my name is Joanne Moore. I work with Corbridge Financial, but I also have co-founded a startup in the UK a few years ago, which came out of some work that I've done with the World Economic Forum on longevity and redesigning retirement for longer lives, with my co-founder, Mark Glover, who's in London. He was with HSBC at the time. He has now left HSBC and is doing Helixia, which is the startup full time. We are career corporate people doing a startup, figuring this out. We've done a lot with seed funding, family and friends, and having people work with us with promises and options and working really hard, and just really want to now break into the US market. And so we're starting to have conversations here and really need to figure out what our next phase looks like. We've learned a lot. So I have a lot of questions, but I will make sure I don't take up all the time with all my questions, but I do have a lot of questions. So it's nice to meet everyone.
Thank you. John, you want to briefly introduce yourself again?
Yeah, sure. So I'm John. I have a background in healthcare. I went to medical school, like I said earlier, but I got super sick and I didn't even finish. Recovered over, I want to say 10 to 15 years. It was a pretty serious thing. But now I'm doing my MBA at the Quantic School of Business and Technology, if anybody's ever heard of them. They're a startup accredited by the government and everything, so not like some diploma mill. Regardless, I'm interested in longevity medicine because I have this whole concept called para-active care. Instead of proactive or reactive, it's para-active, where providers stand by their patients and proactively react to conditions. And that's enabled these days by AI developments, precision medicine and stuff like that. So you could monitor patients using genomics and stuff like that to proactively take care of conditions that come up. So that's my angle towards longevity medicine, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Eric, do you want to?
Sure. Eric Becker, I'm the founder and CEO of Millimatch. Millimatch is my sixth startup or early phase. And so I haven't shaken myself from starting companies. But you've already heard a little bit, but I'll tell you what kind of our little quote thing is that from my experience of past 6 companies and then Fortune 200 at Microsoft, managing people is hard. I had to figure out the hard way because they're irrational and they're hard to measure. But Millimatch was created with patents from our founder that not only measures people, but predicts how they will behave in certain business environments and roles and so forth. That's it. Thank you, Bonnie.
Oh, thank you. Ian.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ian Garmes. I live in Toronto. I'm currently COO of a virtual film school based in Hollywood. We provide live online training for people who would like to become influencers or podcasters, that sort of thing. And, I'll put my contact info in the chat.
I hope your Hollywood people are safe and sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ken.
Morning. Excuse me. Pardon me. I'm at CES. Come back to me, Bonnie. I gotta get a lozenge.
Okay. I know what Ken does. Lawrence.
Good morning. I'm Lawrence Lerner here in Seattle. I'm a growth strategist. I build digital hardware products, software. I'm an author. I've been doing all of the above for about 25 years. If you ever had a coupon at a grocery store, if you work with payment systems, credit cards, I've probably had a hand in building that out. I've done quite a bit in healthcare. I built the first mega trial pharmacovigilance system for Novartis. I touch a lot of industries. I build things. And Tracy, I dropped a video for Ada in the chat. I celebrate her birthday for personal reasons every year.
Great.
And we're actually using some of her theories for testing AI. So a more sophisticated version of a Turing test.
Oh, really exciting.
Oh, wow. Robin.
Yes, hi, Robin Schaefer. I am an analyst relations consultant. I have a small agency, and specifically I work with startups in the B2B tech space who are aspiring to sell into enterprises, and I help them position and get value from the analyst firms like Gartner, Forrester, IDC, and there are many, many others. So I work on behalf of the vendors to create those relationships.
Right. Alex.
Good morning or afternoon if you're in the UK. I'm Alex. Bonnie, I know you for about a year, I think.
Yeah.
Happy New Year's.
Well, thank you.
My background, I'm a reformed investment banker, private equity guy with a focus on specialty finance, who about a year ago, that was some inspiration from Bonnie, decided this is a good time to be a first-time entrepreneur. So set up my first startup, and it's a SaaS offering. It's a fintech with a focus on the specialty lending sector in the US and the UK.
Thank you. Asma, you're muted right now, but do you want to introduce yourself? Asma? Oh, we'll move on to Bert. Who's also muted. Oh, Bert.
Hi, Tracy. How are you?
Hey.
Good. Nice to hear you.
Nice to hear you. I'm Bert Esrig. I am chairman of a health insurance company and a technology consultant based out of New York City.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Fernando.
Hello, everybody. Sorry to be late. I just landed in New York and did as fast as possible to hop in the call.
Hello, Fernando.
Hey, Tracy. New Year, Happy New Year. Well, I'm one of the founders of a startup that is changing older adults' life through social connections. We built a platform in which people can bond with like-minded people in their city and meet in real life. And my background is building products, developing brands. I'm from Argentina, but live mostly in Spain, in Barcelona, and I come a lot to the US, and that's kind of it.
Oh, thank you. Aileen.
Morning, everyone. My name is Aileen Daniels. I'm a commercial banker at JP Morgan. I'm based in New York. I'm currently covering fintech, but my background is in leveraged finance. So like early and growth stage are actually entirely new to me. So this is part of a broader effort of mine to sort of wrap my hands around early and growth stage tech. Healthcare is a bit out of my wheelhouse, but I am just generally interested in like where and how the markets are aligning health and lifespan. So it's got a couple different interesting things kind of rolled into this topic here. So excited to listen and learn.
And we're happy to see you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Ken, are you able to speak right now, or are you still having technical issues?
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, pardon me. I was just I'm at the CES. We're an age tech collaborative portfolio company, and my last reception ended after 10 o'clock last night. So I didn't realize how that happened. So we protect the independence of seniors living at home by allowing them to maintain safe cooking, even when they're impacted by cognitive memory issues. And we're launching our second gen product this coming summer.
Oh, congratulations. Krish Neal. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly.
Yep, all good. Greetings all. I'm Krish and based in Sydney with a background in business and marketing. At the moment, I am just capital fundraising for some founders. They're just all early stage, but yeah, thank you.
Well, that's okay. We like early stage founders too.
Absolutely.
Did I get everybody? Did I miss anybody? Because names keep popping around.
I think you got everybody so
I
far.
think I got everybody. So Tracy, tell us about you and the background and the fund, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.
Great, Bonnie. And I'll just be quick about this because there's a lot certainly that you can read about me online. But I'm Tracy Chadwell, and I'm the founding partner of 1843 Capital. We are an early stage venture capital fund investing in technology companies solving for the 100+ year health span, meaning aging and longevity. And we're currently operating out of Fund 2, getting prepped to raise our third fund, which I just can't believe, Bonnie. I mean, you know, you knew when I was first scraping together 2 nickels to do the first fund. So it's a really exciting time. We are focused exclusively in this space now, and with representative portfolio companies in the mobility sector, such as May Mobility, which is an autonomous driving company that's been driving older adults and is now recently become the autonomous driving company for Lyft, which is incredibly exciting. And then we have companies in the digital health space. One which I think a lot of people have heard of is one called MIDI Health, which raised one of the largest B rounds last year. And then Recuro Health, which is our virtual primary care company. Ripple Care, which is focused on the diagnosis and support of Alzheimer's patients and their caregivers, which shockingly is a $350 billion cost center in the United States. And our most recent deal was Haven Headache, which is a company focused on migraine headaches, which 1 in 5 people in the United States suffer from. So that's just a little bit about us and what we do. We typically enter at the seed stage, although I have done pre-seed deals when the founders are accomplished and well networked in their space, and have done Series A when it's something really important for my portfolio.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So questions. I know you guys always have questions. So feel free to raise your hand or let's hear your questions.
I'm happy to start in terms of so that the century-long lifespan. When do you think that it actually comes into into reach, given the lifespan? Well, given COVID, it kind of shortened up a bit, but how long do you think we take to get there?
Right. Actually, the real thing that has been driving down, I mean, COVID certainly did have a large impact, but what's really driving down our health span in the United States is fentanyl. The overdose crisis is really what's been bringing down the average age of death in this country. However, I will also tell you, and you may be surprised by the statistic, but in the United States, there are currently 110,000 people over the age of 100. It's really incredible. It's like a city of centenarians. And, people keep talking, and Bert, I know you know this, people keep talking about the great transfer of wealth that's going to happen. And I would argue that it may not happen to the extent that people believe, because adults are staying with us. They're aging well, they're taking good care of themselves, and they're spending their money on healthcare and travel.
I bet that travel is as well.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty much there already. We're already starting it, and I think if you take care of yourself, you have every expectation of living to be 100, whether you want to or not.
Tracy, as a follow-up to that, though, the new weight loss drugs, which are Ozempic and Mounjaro and all of those, which
all those peptides,
which are also being seen to have uses far beyond that, like alcoholism and other areas.
Absolutely.
Speak to how that will work towards life expectancy and the challenges of a company like a health insurance company having to cover immense expense up front with the benefit over many, many, many years when they may no longer be your customer.
Well, I think as you may know, Bert, is that actually it was last year when we officially hit that mid mark where 52% of all Medicare was being covered by private insurance companies. Before, it was the private insurance companies that would take you when you were younger, when you were working in a business, but now they also are in charge of your Medicare as well. So they are going to see the benefit, and that's why I think you're starting to see buds of more value-based care coming into the system and people being willing to pay for things up front. But you're right, the peptides are expensive. It remains to be seen too what the real long-term effects of these are, and people need to be on them for the rest of their lives, and how ultimately that cost would balance out with other benefits that happen. But I think that people are seeing a lot of positivity from it, and now I've been hearing about microdosing of those. So people are taking much smaller doses over the long term just for maintenance.
Hey, Tracy, it's Joanne, if I can jump in.
Yes. Please.
Thanks, Bonnie. So in my day job, I work for Corbridge Financial, and our focus is on, I head up thought leadership or financial services, and we do a survey every year. And one of the questions we ask is, do you want to live to 100? And consistently, it's only about 50+% people. This year, we're about to release the results at the Next Century Summit. It's a little bit higher, but people are very worried. And that's one of the reasons we built Helixia, as we know, to successfully live a longer life is what people really want. It's because it can be fraught with issues. And you were talking about how 110,000 people are over the age of 100. I think like 80% of those are women, and women have
could be. I don't know.
Poor health. I've just been researching all this for a presentation I'm doing. And what we're trying to really figure out with Helixia is how do we get people to understand that action needs to happen so that those who may not have access to microdosing or these different things that maybe for those who can afford them can truly live a better, longer life. And we've been approaching corporations and really working towards getting partnerships to launch our platform that has. So Fernando, it would be interesting to talk to you. We know how important social engagement is to living a longer, better life, and all the different aspects, working longer. People seem very interested, they agree, but getting someone to say, yeah, let's try something new has been a huge challenge. And you're in this space, so you probably know that better than anybody. Are you seeing there to be are companies and organizations being more receptive to wanting to get into this space and to try new things? that may not be selling a healthcare product or medicine?
I think people move for a couple of reasons. Number one is fear. If they're afraid of something, that creates movement really fast. Number two is urgent. Is this something that it's an issue that is bothering them or their workforce so much that they are forced to take care of it? And that dovetails into fear because of fear of losing the workforce. And then third would be ROI. So if you can prove one of those things to people, I think that I guess philanthropies are supposed to do things just for the benefit and for the good of our world. And sometimes our government tries to do that as well. But for most of the country, it comes down to those three things. So if you're not saving the money, making the money, or responding to fear, it's tough. You have to find one of those channels that works.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, I had a question about some of your portfolio companies and their adoption of AI and how that's helping their efficiencies, what they're doing to improve their workflows, et cetera.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Even we are starting to use it internally. Things like for content creation, for writing. I drop in ideas for my quarterly letters and it spits out something beautiful. Also to deck analysis. So when a portfolio company sends me a deck, I can have it analyzed in a few minutes, which makes it a lot easier for me to scan things and to help me create some really interesting, good, insightful, spontaneous questions when I meet with the founder. So all that has been great. In terms of the portfolio company side, yes, obviously companies like our Recuro Health are using automated analysis to look at what a patient's conditions are before they get on the phone with them and suggestions for them. We have another company called Manticares that is helping with patient engagement around cancer drugs, and they are using a tremendous amount of AI to help them do that. We have another company called Pluto Health, which is focused on finding gaps in care, and they're working with companies like Kroger's and Walmart to do, and I would say this is a little bit more machine learning than AI, but they're pulling all the health data records from people and combining them and getting a fuller picture to be able to help solve challenges that they're having in their health. So we're seeing it across the board in lots of different areas, and I think we will continue to do so. We don't invest in it, but I really love what's happening with the support for biotech companies and being able to get clinical trials done faster, which I think is fantastic. So we're going to see a lot more drugs on the market, which will be great.
Thanks.
Great. I have a quick question. I'm sorry to interject here. We always hear that women outlive men and blah, blah, blah. Does anybody do studies about why? What's going on with women that they outlive men? And is it the way anybody?
Yeah, I don't have any thoughts on that. I don't know if anyone else does.
I know, it's like women are always like, and yet there's information that's valuable.
So there's been, and again, I'm doing this presentation at the Century Summit in a couple of weeks on gendered ageism and financial security for women. So I've been doing a lot of research around this, and they do say a lot of it has to do that women are more consistent with healthcare appointments throughout their lives. They tend to have chronic illnesses and they'll deal with them more readily than men do. They have greater social connections and family connections throughout their lives. So a lot of that leads to it. And I imagine there's a genetic component as well, but that I'm not that familiar with. But I do find it very interesting that a lot of this has to do with more of the soft things that people do and the soft choices that they make throughout their lives to extend their lives.
I'm just going to add, women are more inclined to comply with adherence particularly for chronic conditions, for the medications that are needed.
Right.
So I don't have a stat to back that up, but just from anecdotal info.
But they don't eat as much junk food either. And
I'm not sure
on
about
the day,
that.
I'll be honest.
Guilty on the junk food.
Yeah, that's my stress go-to.
Yeah, and I'm more careful about the ingredients in products as well.
Fernando, do you see socially?
Eat for yourself.
Fernando, are more women using your app socially? Do you see? Or?
Yes, 100%.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't have. We have about Yeah, 70% women, 30% men.
Interesting.
This data is from Spain, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think there's a kind of a phenomenon in the way baby boomers, because mostly on our part baby boomers, is culturally and socially develop as men and women, and that's the main reason the reason we think men hesitate more into jumping into new stuff and be more bold, and sometimes that fear makes them hold back, whilst women are more dynamic, and that's our point of view. I don't have data to back it up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Joseph.
Thanks, Bonnie.
To
Tracy.
add to your comment on adherence, I can tell you from a health insurance company perspective, the adherence is a huge issue. And yes, women are more adherent, but we are starting to use AI and all of big data to gather all the data together and compile and to execute initiatives to support people, provide transportation, provide reminders, examine their pharmacy records, get their pharmacies involved in being proactive about getting renewals and taking. And if they really have a problem, in doing this on their own, as many men do, providing home health care and the case for home health care so that we can get them to live the life and take care of themselves the way they need to. So AI around all the data that you can't examine without it is going to help push this.
All right, we'll try again.
Exciting, Bert.
Tracy, yeah, I know you're focused on companies helping people live 100 plus. Every day, 10,000 people turn 65, so there's a big gap between 65 and 100. Before the show, we were talking a little bit about how I'm, been in the space and I'm very bullish on tech businesses that are focused on that demographic. I know some of the folks here we've talked about this offline. What are you seeing as it relates to quality of life versus longevity, right? Like living to 100 may be great, but if you're like in a bed on a machine, maybe not so great. What businesses are you seeing? And tied to that is the financial side, right? Like how are people preparing financially to live to 100 or later? And what are you seeing? Are there trends or companies that are of interest? Just curious.
That's a really, really good question. And it really cuts to the heart of what we've been doing from an investment perspective over the last couple of years, because we have been primarily focused on digital health solutions because those are the ones that are winning. Those are the ones that people are willing to get on and have a telehealth appointment with a provider. People are willing to talk to a specialist doctor about menopause. And so the revenues are there, the engagement is there, the usage is there. I think on the wealth side, which Bert and I were both on a board of a company that was a wealth-focused company that struggled because, people don't want to save for retirement. They'd rather go to Disney World. I call them spinach companies. It's something that everybody wants, but nobody's willing to use. Nobody wants to eat their spinach. And then, too, on the social engagement, like Vermouth, which Fernando is building, is a fantastic and very useful product. So it's just a question of getting these companies to get enough steam that they can create the revenues that just make our, we have a very discrete window of opportunities where we can invest in, and it has to do with a certain acceleration of revenues and things like that. And sometimes it's a lot easier to see on the health tech side. So some of the companies that are really, really great for people and helping their quality of life as they age, maybe sometimes those companies will only make between $1 and $5 million, which is completely fine and is a fabulous business. It just doesn't necessarily mean it's ready for venture capital, but it could be ready for non-dilutive grant funding, or it could be philanthropy funding that people are becoming much more interested in. Things like I've seen VR headsets that take people back to the 40s or 30s, which has been very, very helpful for people. Not necessarily a venture investable business, but certainly wonderful and really improves quality of life.
Oh, thank you. I know somebody else had their hand up before. Ian, you always have a question.
I have a question if Ian doesn't.
Sure.
Maybe a kind of provocative question, but do you think that the private sector has most of the answers that are needed for healthcare problems?
Do I think the private sector has most of the
answers, or do answers have to come from other sides?
Oh gosh, I think we have a lot of the answers, but not most of the answers. I think that it's a collaborative, right? It's a collaborative between government funding with the National Institute of Aging and National Institute of Health. It's collaboratives with great foundations like Melinda Gates's Pivotal Foundation, which is focused 100% now on care and care support. And they're doing that from all different angles. So we have one angle that is pushing sort of the productivity and efficiency side of things. And in that respect, we move a lot faster, but it doesn't mean we have all the answers. But certainly, getting people care in rural areas of Texas who haven't had support from a primary care doctor before is a really good thing. Getting all the women in the United States specialized menopause care that they haven't had because doctors get 30 minutes of menopause education in their medical school training is a great thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also wanted to add that doctors only study nutrition for 3 weeks in medical school.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really sad because that's really a critical foundation, I think, for health to make sure that they have good nutrients. And I've been taking, Bunny, I don't know if you know about AG1. I've been taking AG1. I truly believe that we cannot get the nutrition that we need from eating well, because I feel like we are the most overfed, poorly nourished country in the world. And a lot of our vegetables and fruits have been genetically modified or, there's some great videos on what a banana really is supposed to look like versus what a banana looks like, this fluffy, fat, yellow thing now that we have. So AG1 is just a mineral. I'm not an investor, but I use it every day. It's a vitamin and mineral supplement that I believe helps.
Oh, we'll check that out. Thank you.
Yeah. I see lots of fun things. We don't do a ton of consumer products. I'd love to do more, but it's hard to find the right ones that really have a corner on the market. A lot of people are just branding exercises. But I do feel like AG1 is a strong one. Also, too, if you're interested in skincare, one of the best products, again, I didn't invest in it, way too expensive, but a company called OneSkin was working in the same labs as Beyond Meat. And Beyond Meat was generating meat and obviously for human consumption. And then OneSkin was developing skin that they were going to use for testing. It found out that the human testing market wasn't that broad. So they said, oh, you know what? Actually, I think this could be a skincare company. And it's fantastic. It's peptides that actually kick out the sentient or dead skin cells that you have, both all over your body and your face. They can't say it, but they are working on approvals to see if it helps to prevent skin cancer as well, which I think is pretty exciting.
Fantastic. Somebody else had a question because I could talk about food and nutrition forever. Trust me.
I had a question about early stage funding, Tracy. What does that really mean? Because you can have early stage can be a thought, an idea, a concept. What is early stage funding really break down to?
It depends on who's asking, right? So early stage funding for someone who has like the gentleman that was on here before that's had 6 companies that he's already sold. That's a completely different story from a kid straight out of college who's saying, hey, I'd like to get some early stage funding. I think it's a lot tougher for the kid out of college because they're not a proven entity. And so the early stage funding for a guy who's had 6 exits is probably going to be a $10 million seed round, that they can get on maybe even like a $40 million pre. So depending on how successful they've been in the past, early stage for a kid out of college might be $1 million on a $2 million valuation, because it's just, there's just so much risk. And as an investor, you want to get paid up for the risk. Am I asking the right question that you had, or was there a nuance?
No, that actually is not necessarily what I was asking, but it's a great thing to know.
Okay.
I was thinking, when would an investor look at a company and say, yeah, we consider you early stage, or you're still just an idea that's flipping around? And I'll say, for example, we have Prototype. We've had 3,000 downloads of our app. We have a website. We have all this stuff. But we've had a couple contracts. They weren't renewed. We're getting new contracts. So when
Yeah.
At what revenue point are you like, no, I think this can get traction with the right amount of investment and resources put against it?
Yeah. So one of the things that I always say, sort of tongue in cheek, but not really, is, you want to try to seek out all other sources of capital first before you talk to me, including putting money on your credit cards. Because the credit card companies only want 26%. I'm looking for like a 40% IRR from you every year. So my money is really, really expensive. You have to really want it and really value sort of the network guidance and, support that comes with getting venture capital dollars. So there's all this non-dilutive funding out there. I have a list on my website under my resources page of a lot of different non-dilutive funding sources, in addition to early stage investors. But also too, Bonnie, do you remember that company that was back in, I don't know, like the early 2000s, where the guys sold cereal to support their software company?
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember who it was. And yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the guys went out and sold like $1 million worth of cereal. And they used that money to then fund their company. So I think it's really about getting creative. And I certainly, when I first started to raise my fund, I went to all the usual suspects, found that all the doors were closed, and had to get really, really creative about raising capital for my firm, and doing it in the right way with the right people and the ones who cared. I think there's matches for everyone. It's just, you have to find your right fit.
I also wanted to add that Peter Shankman, who was a very successful angel investor, when he was founding his first company, it was a PR agency, and he funded it. He self-funded it. The movie Titanic had first come out, and he was selling T-shirts in Times Square. He kept selling because it said, "It sunk, get over it."
Yep.
It sank, get over
Love
it.
it. I love it.
He's a smart marketing guy, Peter Shankman. So.
Yes,
yeah, that's really, really great. So I see Elaine has been waiting for a while.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Question?
Thank you. So this is kind of a broader two-pronged question. So kind of going back to the culture and adherence points, there's the amount of academia and research, especially in the health sciences over the last 10 to 15 years, has exploded, hasn't necessarily translated to behavioral uptake, let's say in seniors. So one question I have is, in terms of like the customer journey, how do you look at sort of the appropriate entry point for a company that may be focused on longevity? Is it a matter of getting, sort of looking at how 30 and 40-year-olds who have started losing muscle mass and are sort of taking that research and acting on it? Or is it a matter of sort of converting these 60 and 70-year-olds who may just ascribe their age to the fact that they're aging, as opposed to sort of owning their health journey, if you will? So that's a broader cultural question. Then the other piece was tie that along with what are sort of very highly commoditized solutions. So fitness, training, apps, AI, right? You can go on YouTube and pull together an exercise program. But again, despite the volume of information, doesn't necessarily translate to uptake. So I guess how are you looking at approaching customers and potential sort of health span uptakers?
That is such a great question. And by the way, I love the Peloton app. I mean, I don't think we really need any more apps on exercise, because the Peloton app does such a great job. I don't even pay for the cycling one. I just do the $12 a month regular one and use it in hotel rooms and things like that. Adherence and engagement, super, super tough. Something that we're working on all the time. And I think there is a little bit of a dirty secret in that, and you're absolutely right. That is, it just goes linearly, up as people get older, they're less and less inclined. And there's a trust issue too. There's a big trust issue. Even though they might be digital natives, there's a trust issue with a new company. And there's being so warned about senior fraud and things like that. But the dirty secret is, like with MIDI Health, with menopause, guess what? The first millennial just went into menopause, so really you're reaching that millennial audience that are digital natives. And then also too, a lot of the products that I invest in, we don't necessarily touch an older adult until the very last minute. So something like May Mobility, which is a transportation service, those contracts are negotiated with the cities And then, all the tech was built out, in a factory. And then at the very last minute, the senior gets in and uses the product. But it's paid for, like, by the city of Detroit, pays for this service. It's $2.5 million contract every year. Also, too, the digital health we've spent a lot of time there because it's a little easier, quite frankly. But we are working too on certain things like the cancer engagement for drugs, which actually is paid for by the drug companies, which is an excellent customer for that. That company, we're working on gamification because I always say, let's use all this really awful stuff that is harming our children. But you know what? Maybe we can use these things, these dopamine inducers, to help people do things that they don't normally want to do. So I think about that every day. Great question. Thank you.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Bert, you have another question?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, we have a vast change in the political and government landscape coming, especially in the healthcare arena. Everything is going to change in the Department of Health and Human Services, the FDA, CMS, everything is going to change. And with the Department of Government Efficiency trying to reduce the deficit, it's going to have tremendous changes. The pharmacy benefit managers are going to be affected. We can talk on and on about the effects, but how is that affecting your views on who to invest with, how government grants are essential to their business and the business of healthcare?
Absolutely. And I don't know if you know Todd Heim, who's the head of the NIA, and Todd's a super guy. And I was asking him, I said, elephant in the room, Todd, like, what's happening? What do you think is going to happen? And he's pretty confident that things will go on business as usual for him. So we'll see whether that is true or not. But at least they're hopeful there, and they're doing a lot of great work, especially in Alzheimer's support. I think that the deregulation piece is going to be pretty exciting. I love the idea too of, I don't know if you know, and I just found this out yesterday, but there's this right to try bill that has been up for a long time, which is allowing people, if you are dying within 6 months, that you are allowed to try a drug if you want to try it, which I think is pretty interesting. And actually, Montana has just passed this bill in the state. So you can go to Montana and try new drugs that are through phase 1 approvals. So I think that could be something that's very exciting. I think in terms of digital health, I would like to say we're probably in the catbird seat because we are net cost savers. That is the whole reason behind our business, the business opportunities that we have, is that in things like Alzheimer's, that is the largest cost center for insurance companies. It's $350 billion out of $4 trillion in healthcare costs a year. So if we can start to reduce some of those costs by keeping people out of emergency rooms, I think that's just going to be a benefit for solutions like this.
Yeah, I tell you though, speaking of how things have changed, CMS has already almost put a moratorium on anything that is not cookie cutter. We went to them with something that was a little out of the ordinary, and they said, we're going to wait for the new administration to come in before we do anything different.
So new reimbursement codes, I'd be very hesitant in that. Companies that are using existing billing codes, I'm fine with.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. It's interesting though. I'm a net positive person, so I hope that a lot of this will be good. And I think that a lot of the M&A that's going to happen is going to be great because we have a lot of small companies and companies that need to consolidate and work together more efficiently rather than all be going after the same customer.
Chris posted some questions in the chat. Did you want to ask your questions, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Let me just go back to the chat. Yeah, it was just like 3 simple questions. First, what are some questions founders usually fumble on, just trying to pitch their startup? And also, what would you like to hear from founders on their stance of exiting? And
Yeah, great. So this morning I was looking at some resumes. We're hiring an intern, and I had to go through about 40 resumes of people that are interested in supporting us. And I was astonished by resumes that had misspellings, resumes where the person didn't have my name. They had another venture capital firm's name in the letter, which was really shocking. But then you get down to the more nuanced things where I started to look for the cover letters that actually said something about our firm. You know, instead of talking, oh, look how great I am, look how great I am, look how great I am. I was looking for somebody who said, but yeah, I'm also interested, Tracy, in your company Ripple Care, or I'm interested in your company Manticares because I have had a personal experience with things like that. So I think just as a initial bar, just make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, that you're not making simple mistakes like sending an email to someone and saying, "Dear Joe," to me. You know, that's an easy one. That's you're just crushing yourself right out of the gate. But I think then to get more serious, definitely, I think for whatever reason, people are building businesses and they really don't know their numbers and they don't have financial projections. And this drives me bananas because even though it's all fairy dust, you want to sort of get an idea of how people are thinking about the business, where they think it can go. If it's a company that's only going to achieve $10 million in the next 10 years, that's not really venture fundable. And that's something that I can, you know, pretty easily communicate to someone quickly and maybe send them in a different direction, which would be useful for them and save time for them. And then in terms of what do I want to hear from founders on exits, I really like to hear about that. You know, you get these guys who say, oh, if a person's really in love with their business, they should never want to leave it. And, you know, we'll find ways of getting out. All I want to hear is the passion for building it in the first place. You know, I'm happy, especially too, if someone has experience with exits and they say, look, I'm building this for XYZ company. This is where I think it's going to go. Or we really feel like this company has the ability to IPO. My business, you know, any fool can write a check into a company. Getting out is where the real art is. And so I fully appreciate when someone either has a plan for an exit or at least is thinking about it.
Does that answer all your points that you listed, Krish?
Let me just check again. And yeah, it's similar to the first one, but like any answers that you would ask, like you want to be like improved from the founder, or like how they could reframe their answers?
Yeah, I think one of the first thing besides the financials and knowing your numbers cold and having projections and being able to articulate those, that's really critical. I think that taking one step backwards and talking about the team, because a great team will make a market. A great team will make a business work. I think sometimes the opposite is not true. Just because you have a huge market, everybody says, oh, aging, this is the biggest market there is. Well, yes, it is, but you also have to have a viable business model that works within it. And you have to have the right team. And usually companies fail because teams fall apart or they don't have the right team members around the table. And so it's very important to me. I don't know if any of you have taken the Enneagram test. I love it. I always ask founders if they've taken it, what number are you? What numbers are the rest of the team? Because it's really nice to have the different numbers or the different pieces of puzzle, you know, the puzzle around the table. You need to have someone with financial analytic prowess. You need to have great company builders. You need to have salespeople. You need to have good marketing minds around the table. If you don't have all of those pieces, I think you're at a real disadvantage. So being able to articulate how your team has worked together, what their experiences are, and how they fit together as part of the puzzle, I think is often something that people gloss over or they leave to the end. For us, it's the most important thing.
Whoa, what is the Enneagram test? Is there a link that you can put in?
Enneagram, Bonnie, it's amazing. You must take it today. It's $20. It's ENNEAGRAM. It'll give you some really good insights about yourself, but then also too, it's good to have team members take it so that I keep encouraging my husband to take it. He hasn't. He says, we already know what I am. But then also too, my kids have taken it. It's been fascinating to see what they are. And, you know, my relationship with them, it hasn't changed a ton, but at least I'm like, oh, I understand because he's a 5, you know?
Wow.
How's that differ from the Myers-Briggs type of a thing?
I think it's very, very similar. It's just an updated version of it. But you come up with just one number instead of, isn't Myers-Briggs, is that the ENTJ? Yeah.
They are accurate. I took Myers-Briggs 4 times throughout my career. No, so I'm sorry, 3 times. And each time it came out the same. And it was like over a span of 20 years, I'd say.
Yeah, and I've taken the Enneagram a couple of times, and I've taken Myers-Briggs as well. I don't remember my letters though. It's a lot easier for me to remember the number. And it's come out the same. I've been a 3 consistently through the years.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna check it out. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
it's a lot of fun and reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be a good team event.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ian.
Tracy, I just thought kind of a follow-up on some of the other comments that were made. What are your thoughts about privacy in connection with automated health technology?
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
I mean,
So
it
this-
seems like a lot of the solutions depend on access to people's private records. What do you think?
100%. So, you know, one of the things that I just always think myself is that my health records are public information. I think if you think that, you're going to be a heck of a lot happier. I went to a vein clinic. I have varicose veins. I went to a vein clinic in Bethesda about a month ago, and I got a letter last week saying, oops, all of your health data, all of your diagnosis, your social security number, your address, your credit card, billing information, and your email address have all been are all in the dark web, and we're sorry. You know, it's really incredible, and cybersecurity is such a difficult space, that it's one that you have a constant foe, number one, but then also too, when we hit quantum, wow, we all better strap in and
Yeah, but there's also big financial liabilities. I mean, United Health has spent like over $1 billion on their most recent breach, and they have other problems too. But you know, I mean, like maybe the financial aspect has not been emphasized enough.
Yes.
Companies are not very public about the costs of these breaches,
I
but
think
you know,
you're
it can
right.
be very significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Tracy, I would add from another standpoint, yes, the Change Healthcare problem with United Healthcare just illustrated the problem. But from someone who is looking at using a lot of these new technologies, we are reticent to go with smaller companies because
100%.
They really have all the cybersecurity protections. We can't risk a HIPAA violation. We can't risk something coming in and blowing up and stopping payments to vendors, payments to providers, payments to everything else. You know, Change Healthcare cost us millions of dollars and severely impacted management time and operations. So it actually, this cybersecurity thing, if not handled properly by smaller and mid-sized companies, will make you uncompetitive.
100%.
We will reject you. Third party, we have a substantial third-party vendor review and acceptance process. And to some extent, a little bit fourth party.
Right.
If you can't pass that, you're not getting in the door.
Yeah, and SOC 2 is expensive, but all my companies are SOC 2, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, even to get to SOC 2, PCI compliant, all the various stages.
Yeah.
With constant testing is imperative.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree, and I wish the main clinic had done it too.
You know, I have a new client who is in the health tech space.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sensitive information. It's a lot of data. And I asked him about cybersecurity. He said and he's a successful serial entrepreneur. He said built in from day one.
Yep. I think it's really important. Yeah, no, if a healthcare company is not talking about that and doesn't have it on the roadmap, then that shows that they're not ready yet.
Oh, I know that Alex put another question in the chat about interns. Alex, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just wondering what you know, I got a daughter and some nephews and whatever else. What's your criteria for interns? What are you looking for? Minimum age, geographic location, etc.
Well, I really have a preference. I'm located in Washington, D.C., and at this point, I am looking for someone who's located here. Yeah, Bonnie, we were talking with your friend earlier about the one that's measuring the productivity, and this is one of the things that I've found is so difficult with a online only intern. It's been really difficult for me to know where they are. So
yeah, a lot of companies have that problem.
It's, you know, sometimes they don't get back to you for a day or two on something that needs in an hour or so. I think that being here in Washington, D.C. is really important. That's why I just got the ton of resumes from Georgetown University, and the MBAs with some work experience, especially in the healthcare spaces, is most preferred. And then second, somebody who's had some venture classes or something like that. So we're not starting day one from scratch.
Tracy, maybe we can make a movie, The Intern 2, and you can wind up with a 70-year-old intern.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
Hey, that's what the fun.
Be perfect.
So we have a few people who arrived late. Kevin, do you want to introduce yourself? You're muted right now. Kevin Williams. Oh, maybe not. Tim, you're also muted, but if you'd like to introduce yourself, please do.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Garibrandt. My background is investment banking and consulting. I work with early stage and growth stage companies in a number of different verticals. I've done a lot of different things over the course of my career. So it doesn't matter necessarily too much the vertical, but if I look at the client and if I have expertise and can add contacts and help them with their business plan and projections, et cetera, then I will sign them up. So I'm working with a couple of companies. One of them actually has the ability to measure workplace behavior by analyzing people's answers to 5 simple questions. So we're excited about the prospects for that.
That's great. That sounds exciting.
Deanna, have you introduced yourself? I'm not sure yet.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Deanna Angelo. My background spans 2 decades in biotech and pharma. I've worked across oncology, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cardiovascular. I've launched 7 drugs, over $7 billion. More recently, I'm an executive in residence for an accelerator for female-led healthcare companies. So across therapeutics, digital health, women's health, tech bio, as well as diagnostics and med device.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Tracy.
Are there any other latecomers who would like to introduce themselves? I don't like to skip people.
Good morning. My name is Kevin J. Quinn.
Yes.
Hi. Good morning. I'm with Catalyst Global Markets. We provide introductions and assist early stage companies with capital raising activities. We are present within the sectors or active within the sectors of technology, AI, blockchain, and clean energy. And we're actively seeking partners with other firms, et cetera.
Oh, thank you. Bert, you had your hand up before. Did you get to ask your question? I wasn't sure. Although you're muted right now.
I'm sorry?
Oh, you had a question before. You had your hand up before.
No, it was about, it was a follow-up on cybersecurity.
Oh, okay. So, next question. I'll ask the standard. What are the size of your checks generally, Tracy?
Generally, we start with a 500K check and then reserve for follow-on.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually like to take about 4 to 5% of a company at the outset, knowing that we will suffer dilution greatly and end up with about 2.5 or so. Okay. Yep, and looking for great teams with urgent problems in large markets.
That was my next question.
Yeah, it's amazing how many nice to haves out there, and we're looking for the have to haves.
How are you defining great teams?
Yeah, great. Well, for me, a great team is a team that we talked about has all the puzzle pieces of the Enneagram around the table. Hopefully has worked together in the past, so that can iron out a lot of things. In fact, we're also bringing in coaches right at the beginning to make sure that people, get the table set of how people are going to respond to each other, how they're going to behave around the table, what their responsibilities are. But usually a team that has had some really good experience in the space. Obviously, a second-time founder, third-time founder is the best, but somebody who's had startup experience, it's a little bit tougher, I think, for people to come out of a large corporate environment and operate in the startup, which is, as you know,
100% agree with
its own
that statement.
its own hell.
100% agree with that statement. One of the startups I worked for, they hired some folks who had worked on a big political campaign, and I was like,
Yeah.
This is just not going to work.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's you need the right people. When you said 2 or 3 startups, I'm assuming you're looking for a successful the 2 or 3 to be successful.
You know, it's really interesting because Joanna Strober, who's the CEO of MIDI Health, I mean, one of the things we loved about Joanna is that she had startup experience, and she had sold her childhood obesity company to Weight Watchers, but she sold it at a loss for her investors. So her first company was not successful, but man, has she really done wonderful things with MIDI. You know, it's also timing too. I mean, we can't discount that. I'm trying to remember the guy that did a really nice TED talk on what makes a most successful startup. And they said, after analyzing everything, team, market opportunity, you know, experience, things like that, what really it came down to is timing. Is this the right time for this particular product? You know, and right now menopause is having a moment. So in terms of timing for MIDI, she has a great company, but she also hit it with great timing.
Tracy, this is not a question, but just a query to the entire group.
Yeah.
So in addition to the healthcare, I'm also the insurance company. I'm also vice chairman of the Associated Healthcare Company, and we have multiple nursing homes. We have started a project which we got a grant for to put tablets in the hands of every one of our residents.
Amazing.
That's fantastic.
Okay, so that's 500 residents.
Wow.
So we've used the standard apps communicating with family, music for the dementia and other patients, things like that. And so I'd be interested in hearing ideas, applications, or other things that people have come up with, given the fact that we have these tablets in front of 500 residents. And we are thinking about working with companies as test beds for new ideas, properly constructed, not, you know, wild things, but properly constructed and safe to put in the hands of our residents. So it's just something for your toolkit.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, no, I will definitely keep my eyes out for things that are app-based for the tablets, but then also too, Bert, do you know about the cats? The cats that purr, and they're toys, but they're very interactive. I don't know if you've looked
So we're starting to work with multiple different types of robotic instruments.
Yeah.
Including virtual companions for those who are at home. We've tested out those in a few spots because loneliness can contribute to all kinds of problems, and especially for males, that tends to be a problem.
100%.
So yes, part of our strategic planning is to go through and work with various initiatives to improve the health of our residents, most of whom are old, sick, and poor.
Bert, just quick question for you, Bert. Have you seen any adoption issues? You know, the older adults were not digital natives, so to speak, and learning how to do some of these things?
The only problem we've had is where there's a resident who's old, doesn't have digital experience, and has no family to help them with it. But where they have family, the kids or the grandkids tend to help them with it. And the first application they use is the video chat. Okay, they want to talk to their grandkids. Okay, so they figure out how to do that. And what we've got is an application on the tablet that's very easy to use. The family's pre-programmed. You push the button, talk to grandkids, and off they go. Okay,
so perfect.
So yeah, the ones that get an immediate payback for the resident, the music, the communication, those have been adopted. So what we're looking for is the next one of those.
Right.
Okay. And we have a large in-person music therapy program, which I've managed to raise money and gather lots of musical instruments for, who actually go out to these people if we see that there's no other way to engage them digitally.
Yeah. Bert, how about an app that would help your residents tell their own personal stories? Does that make any sense to you? You know, I have a friend that's working on one of those.
Maybe. I'm not sure it would have broad appeal, but maybe. We are starting to work on things that will more tightly bond the family to the patient in terms of care, adherence, monitoring them, and helping them keep their health better. About 15 years ago, I went on a personal journey to do that, to tell my life story, to create the family tree, to do all of those things after my mother passed away. And certain members of my family, among the young and the old, have embraced it, and certain have said, yeah, I don't care. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Well, please connect with me. I've sent you a private message.
Okay, great.
Bert,
yeah.
I did the same thing. I just
Right.
put my Calendly on the chat. I don't know what you're looking for specifically in the average age of your residents, but I honestly think that we normally overlook the basics of any human being in terms of social connection, what that means to a human being, and the vanity that strikes when you're part of a community, and how that impacts your health. And that's kind of what we do in Vermont, and we would be happy to provide the app just for a test if you would like that.
Fernando is wonderful and has incredible engagement. He really has got that piece down.
Good.
So
I love when we see synergies. Next question or comment.
Well, Tracy, I was interested in what you said about your interns. So have you hired many such interns?
Yeah, we've had 16 interns already.
Oh, okay. And what has the track record been? Like how have they worked out on average?
It's been fine.
Yeah.
I've had a couple that were absolute home runs, and the rest are sort of just okay and fine.
Okay. And you're looking for people that are based in Washington, essentially.
Yeah, at this point, I definitely want somebody that's based in DC.
Got it. Okay. Because I'm part of the Laconia Capital, training program.
Oh
yeah. I did earlier last year, and I've got some other friends who are in it now, and a lot of them are looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
Like yours, but I don't think too many of them are in Washington area, but
maybe if it's somebody really special and they're in New York, I would talk to them. And I could do so. It would be there could be a full-time role as well. And actually, we're in tender care with Laconia with Jeffrey Silverman.
Oh, we love those boys, and Jerry, who's a force of nature.
Yes, exactly. So I know the team well. Yeah, Jerry's great too.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I'll pass the word on to the people in the private chat.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, so next question, if there's a question. Or I would ask you what you're seeing that's changing in the venture world. You mentioned, successful exit is great. I'm working with a client who did have an exit to Amazon, no less.
Oh, wow.
And it's still tough.
It's still tough.
What he's building now is totally different, and I think very cool, but we'll get there.
Yeah, the exits have been so hard the last couple of years. It's just been, they smell blood in the water. They said, we know that there's a lot of these companies out there. They're not going to be supported financially by their investors anymore. So we're going to just go pick them up for $1 and $2 million a piece. And so that's what we've seen pretty much across the board. However, we've had a couple of our companies have had, I would say, good-ish offers, which to me means more are coming. Certainly offers that we wouldn't take, especially it's also true for some of our most successful companies in the portfolio. So I think that things are starting to change, and I think it's just going to take a little bit more flywheel where more and more people are starting to do deals and get deals done, and you're seeing more news, and then the FOMO kicks in, and then you see everybody sort of having to come to the table to pick something up.
I also was
also too, the wrath of Khan is over. Lena Khan. So yeah, so hopefully we'll at least have a more positive attitude towards it, right?
What allows you to get a reasonable offer? Is it hopefully cash flow positive? What is it, the characteristic of the company financially that allows you to get some interest?
Oh, I think rapid growth rate in a space that can be very additive as strategic acquisition, that would be one of them. I think for the private equity buyers, they're looking like they're all over MIDI. They are just because it's hot, you know, and no pun intended. But then for the other companies, yes, the one company that had significant interest, it was cash flow positive, but it was also growing really fast, you know.
Oh, well, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, exactly. So if they had a good offer, but it wasn't something that we were going to entertain at the time because we think there's a hell of a lot more in the tank.
So Joe Marlin just got here, and I want to give him an opportunity to introduce himself because you two should know each other in any event. Joe.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I had something hit my calendar first thing this morning. Yeah, I'm out here in Austin. Many of the faces on here have heard this, so I'll try and be brief. Came from the public markets ran a multifamily office and out on Sand Hill Road back in the 90s and witnessed the venture process and how eclectic it is, and I'm being generous.
Joe, I was at Robertson Stephens in the 90s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They had an office. I was there at 3000 Sand Hill. They had an office right above me.
Yep, I've been there many times.
Yeah, they were right above me. Or next door. No, they were on the same floor, next door. Yeah, next door. We were both on the bottom floor. Anyway, so we built a solution to bring some public market investment rigor. So this looks more like an asset class and less like a sort of a gambling casino. So think of the picks and shovels of how to implement more of a process orientation so startups can have more efficient access to capital and the people investing in startups, either directly or as an LP, can have more confidence in repeatable alpha, regardless of the backdrop and the like. So anyway.
That's great.
Been writing about this and all sorts of stuff. Tracy, if we're Robbie Stephens, you know institutional investor journals, and the editor of the original Journal of Portfolio Management, Frank Fabozzi, who's a board. Oh, okay, you know Fabozzi, yeah. He's on the board of BlackRock, and he's an iconic figure. He's pissed he hasn't won the Nobel Prize. We exchanged emails this morning. He invited me to publish a paper in the Q4 of 22's II's Journal of Portfolio Management on the venture, how to design a better venture fund model, and what are the components, just borrowing from some of the cumulative research I've been assimilating for almost 30 years, but also just with a nod to just what are the common practices in public market investing from a portfolio manager's lens. And I reached out to him to see if he would host a roundtable, because I've accumulated a lot of other people that have now been writing about the need to innovate on the venture fund model.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to attend. So
yeah, I'll keep you posted. I'll push it out to Bonnie, but he did respond. I sent him an email yesterday, and he responded this morning, said, yeah, and he's going to work with the CFA Institute. They're going to host it, and he's going to moderate the roundtable. So it'll be fun. It'll be a good conversation.
Frank's a little far afield from his initial days in the fixed income U.S. Treasury business. When I knew him, I sponsored a book that he wrote on collateralized debt obligations back in, I don't want to say, maybe 90s.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, I remember his first book. So,
he was principally a debt guy. That was his background. I studied from one of his books years ago. When he reached out to me in 22, I said, Mr. Fabozzi, I know who you are. I read from one of your books.
Yeah, I'm an old fixed income guy, despite my healthcare world now.
Okay. Well, the debt guys are even more rigorous than equity analysts. Equity analysts get caught up in FOMO and the granularity of earnings calculations. The debt guys are the real legit guys that understand portfolio management. Well, you guys will understand this. Years ago, when I started down this path, a very smart guy, academic, lots of books sort of guy named Bartley Madden, when I told him what we were trying to do in my first attempt at this 24 years ago, he said, Joe, you will lower the equity risk premium investors assign the asset class and the cost of capital for entrepreneurs. You'll do for venture what Michael Milken did for junk bonds. Because he understood what Milken did to, high yield credit, as they called it, based on a report that was produced. Milken read a report produced by the Fed president of the Cleveland Fed. He produced a report back in '56 of all things. And Milken read it in his undergrad at Berkeley. about just taking a more of a portfolio approach. Don't underwrite each transaction as if it's the only thing you're ever going to invest in. Think of it in the context of a broader portfolio, because diversification allows you to capture alpha. And that's what Milken ultimately did, standardizing on the reporting, standardizing on the analytics, but encouraging a portfolio, more of a portfolio approach than a transactional approach. That's the fundamental thing that the Fed president recognized in '56, and Milken studied it and made it his thesis at Wharton, and then revolutionized the bond market.
Well, Tracy, you should steal that tagline, change it from a gambling casino to an asset allocation.
Oh, trust me. Bert, if you've got an email, I'll send you some of my writings. I already have.
Okay, great. Put it up in the chat.
So does anybody else have a question or comment? I didn't want to exclude the rest of the group here.
Yeah, well, I have a question, Tracy. So I have a good friend who's actually been on this call several times, and he's got a health tech product. It's one of those things that will require FDA approval. What are your thoughts on companies that have long FDA approval processes?
Yeah, it's not our space. We haven't traditionally invested in things that require FDA approval, but there are lots of other funds that do. So
right. Okay. All right. Okay.
It's binary. It's very binary. So it's tough. It's tough for us to underwrite that.
Oh, I have a question. What if the company already has FDA approval?
Oh, so then it's just a branding and marketing exercise. I think that could be interesting, but it would have to. The trouble is you get to that point and then the pricing is just so crazy for me. I don't know. If it was something that was still under a $25 million valuation.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
So next question or comment.
So, and by the way, I don't call it gambling. I call it legally trading on insider information.
Well,
so you could be a member of Congress.
I was just going to ask if you're a member of Congress.
Asymmetric information advantage.
Yes. Yes.
It's unbelievable. So I know we're running out of time, so I want to give one or two other people a chance. Otherwise, I'm going to ask Tracy to leave us with some pearls of wisdom. And I know you have some because you've been doing this a long time and you've worked with a lot of founders and a lot of companies, and you know where the landmines are. So
it's really true.
Yes.
I guess
I do.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, it's like a small question. Let's say like I'm Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos, but how could I like approach the conversation with the investor? You know, like I'm at like R&D stage. I mean, assuming I'm truthful, like
I was gonna say, where's this going?
Yeah.
It's pretty much like how could I approach it? Like if I'm at pre-seed, like R&D level stage.
But you're talking about a diagnostic company?
Yeah, like hers as an example.
Yeah, we don't invest in diagnostic companies. It's mostly software that we invest in. We do have one hardware company that we're working with right now, and just the moving pieces are really, really tough for us. So the obvious thing is to start off talking about the team and the team reputation and the accomplishments of the team, but then also to be able to be a really good storyteller. And I think that people that have that ability, that have both the credibility, the real deal, and then are able to effectively articulate it and show the value proposition is how they're able to get funding. And I think, maybe in a closing pearl of wisdom too, Bonnie, it's about the matching. And a lot of people think it's about sending out as many letters. Oh, it's a numbers game. You just send out enough emails and cold emails. Well, first of all, I've never met with anyone off of a cold email. There's a lot of fraud in this business. So you'll find that a lot of investors will not respond, and they'll say horrible things to me, like, don't you even have 2 minutes in the day to respond to me? Well, now that I'm getting about 150 pings every single morning from HubSpot, from bots that are just pumping out to every single email investor list. No, I don't have the time to respond to all of those. So it's more about finding the match and finding the reason. What is the reason? Bill Clinton said something, and when I was raising my first fund, it's something that I've never forgotten, and it was very, very relevant this morning when I was reading those interns' letters, which is the minute that you forget that it's about them and start thinking about you is when you've lost. So it's not about who you are and what you've done so much as it is about what you can do for the person that you're talking to, and the what are the investors' interests? Do they like biotech? Do they like diagnostics? Are they only in the digital health space, or are they a fintech investor or a crypto investor? You need to know these things ahead of time and know what the sweet spot is. If they're a growth capital investor, they're not going to invest in a seed stage fund. And please don't ask them to make introductions to seed stage investors, because if they don't know you well enough, they can't give you their name to pass on to them. So it's really about doing your homework, working smarter, not harder, right?
Marketing 101. Know who your audience is.
Yeah. So those are great sage words of advice. Unless somebody has one other thing to throw in. I want to thank everybody for being here. And thank you so much, Tracy, for making the time. And in fact, Joe Milan is going to be speaking at the next Investor Online Insights.
Fantastic. So
you should come. Feel free to heckle him, right, Joe?
Sounds great.
Thank you so much, Tracy and Bonnie.
Thank you.